All right, we be live. Hi, everyone. Make sure you like the stream. We're going to be talking about something very important, and a lot of people have been asking me about this. We're going to be talking about how a lot of the discussions around AI and tech optimism and the future of technology, the the language used and the framing of it seems very religious. A lot of the branding is sounds like religious talk. A lot of the, I mean, here we haven't shied away from that at all. I have no problem using that. In fact, I encourage it, and I will tell you why. And we're also going to be comparing the idea of this whole the optimism and the promises that are being made, so semi promises, and the framing of it and the situation that we're finding ourselves in, and all the discussion about it, why it is very parallel to religious talk, and why that framework makes actual sense, even though we are mostly atheists here and we are against religion. I'm going to go through this with you. I'm going to talk about the similarities with you. I'm going to talk about the differences with you, and I'm going to also talk about why are both from a biological perspective and also from thousands of years of religion framing the framework that our culture, our politics, our economy works, makes sense that when we have a um, a godlike entity, or basically any form of non-intelligent, non-human intelligence that is providing wisdom, guidance, and prosperity and growth, why it would make sense that it will basically fit exactly like pieces of puzzle in the holes that religion has left behind. And that makes absolute sense, and there is no reason for us to be sensitive to that, because this is based on reality rather than being based on revelation, faith, and religion, right? So let's get right into it. By the way, guys, I'm gonna try to make a habit of just jumping right into it, so that when people watch the show later, they quickly get an understanding of what the show is about. But now that that's out of the way, that you know what we're going to be talking about, I need to remind you guys to like this show, because this is the discussions that we're going to be having here on this channel are in my opinion at least, are the most important discussions that anybody could be having about anything anywhere, because this is the future of humanity and the future of every single one of you. And on this channel, we're going to be discussing what is about to change, how fast is about to change, and what can you do about it. This is not just going to be just discussion on observing what's happening. This is also about actionable advice on how to make sure you come up winning, and you have the upper hand when it comes to the tsunami that is coming at us. I see Mohsen in the chat. I see three of knowledge. I see the cat lady, Amir, Dr. Hypnosis. Guys, thank you for being here. Please make sure you like the stream, because this is important. I need more people to end up seeing the stream. Again, it's hard to grow this channel because this channel was about something else, and now we switch direction given how important this is, and I need to get more people that appreciate the discussions that we're having here. All right, so let's just jump right into it. And also, Amir is here starting your comments. So, Amir, start the comments that are relevant to the topic. So, in case I need to read something. All right, so so we're going to compare religion to, let's call it tech optimism, right? And, or some, which the new form of tech optimism. So, tech optimism is a general term. A lot of people these days are focusing on AI, but tech optimism covers a whole bunch of things, right? So a subcategory of tech optimism is AI maximalism, but let's basically whatever you want to call it, because we're now focusing a lot on AI. We could basically refer to AI maximalism. Basically, the idea is that tech is good, so more tech is better, right? This is pretty obvious. We have seen, if you look at our history, nothing more than tech has improved people's lives. When it comes to any jump in economic prosperity, when it comes to any jump in the well-being of people's lives, when it comes to reduction of death, misery, disease, poverty, no revelation, not even no economic innovation, no political new way of thinking. I mean, I'm not saying those are irrelevant and haven't been useful, but when it comes to putting it next to jumps in technology, nothing has impacted our lives. So we could go around and keep talking about politics, about bad ideas, about religion, and about, oh, this is not good for trade, or this is not a good economic um, policy here, oh, this is a bad idea, this is liberal, this is illiberal. I mean, all that is good, and all of that influences our lives. However, if you put them side by side, if you put them all on one column and measure those new way of thinking and look at the impact they have on our lives, and on the other column you put tech, like if you want to connect our way of life to any tech advancements, and then you put another column and you show those changes in technology, and then look at how it affected our lives, nothing comes even remotely close to having such a direct impact on everything, on all our lives, on our happiness, on our prosperity, on our sense of meaning, everything. Yeah, so Jack is saying technology and political structures improve lives. Yeah, I mean, all of these are related, obviously, political structures and technology. But what I'm saying is technology is more direct and more impactful. Like if you, even political structures changing is usually a side product of new technologies. Political structures only change because the new technology changes the dynamic of the economy, and the structure of our economic frameworks changing. That changes politics. So it's mostly the other way around. It's not politics changes economy and economy changes technology. It's mostly technology changes economy and economy changes politics. So the direction is mostly the other way around. So it's very simple calculation. This is like not very complicated. Tech is good, more tech is better. Tech has made our lives better, so more tech is going to make our lives even better, right? And right now, a lot of people are focusing on AI. So if you say more tech is better, so you could say tech is good, more tech is better. So you could say AI is good, so more AI is better. So tech optimism will lead you to think to the conclusion to be that you need to be an AI maximalist. Like AI maximalist means more AI everywhere. Use AI everywhere that you can use AI. That's what it is. And again, I understand that a lot of it is going to be hype. A lot of it is going to be a bubble. It's going to burst. These bubbles are going to burst. A lot of them are going to be misfires. So we're going to have a lot of ups and downs. But the general trend is always going to be up, just like with the internet. Just because we had the dot-com bubble, it doesn't mean that the internet went away and it wasn't impactful on our lives. So again, every time we're going to see some major company promising some AI solution and it backfires and it doesn't work, people are going to act like, oh, AI, oh, this was a hype, this is exaggerated, and they don't see the longer term. They have to zoom out and just look at the longer trend rather than zooming on these small drops in the market. So yeah, I don't want to get too economical, but now that we have our terms, let's talk about this. Okay, so religion and AI maximalism or tech optimism might seem totally opposite. One is based on faith, the other one is based in science, but they have some similarities. Both of them aim at the same human dream. The thing is that something, for example, something could be a scam and something could actually be so for example, if I say, hey, invest in this and you make a lot of money, and then you invest in it and you ends up being a Ponzi scheme, that was a scam that you lost all your money. But then there's this other solid investment here that you could put your money in and you will actually have a good rate of return. So the thing is that what are the similarities between these two? They are both suggesting that if you put your money here, you're going to have a good rate of return. This similarity here does not deny the differences, right? So when I say they both tech optimism and religion are aiming at the same human dream, people are like, oh, so this is just another religion. I mean, in the same way that that Ponzi scheme is similar to a solid investment in the sense that they're all both trying to aim, they both promise sim they have similar promises that you're going to have a positive return on investment. That's the similarity here. The goal is the same. They have the same human dream, but one of them delivers and the other one doesn't. So what human dreams are we talking about here? We're talking about transcending weaknesses, finding meaning, and becoming something more than our human biology by itself allows. Right? This is mainly what they're both focusing on. Right? So transcending weakness is one of the main ones. Um, this is a desire that we have, and they both are. Here's the thing: when it comes to promises, because people think, all right, so religion is promising that, and that ended up being a lie. So you're saying tech optimism is kind of promising the same thing, but I don't know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So why should I believe this, given that we have already religion has promised this for thousands of years? Tech optimism is promising the same thing, and given that we should be skeptical about such promises, then maybe we shouldn't actually believe in promises like this. Rasul in the chat saying exactly. Well, let me tell you why it's different. Because tech optimism it's not even a promise. It has already delivered. Let me explain why. So we say that with technology, you are going to be able to achieve many of the promises that religion promises and never delivers. And if you want to be poetic about it and use religious language like pantheists do about it, tech and science and tech will allow you to become like gods, will allow you to have godlike powers. And people say, well, yeah, sure, that sounds all nice, but that ain't going to happen. Or maybe we shouldn't be so sure. I could it's I could tell you why you can be sure about this, because you can't be sure about things that happened in the future, but you can be sure about things that happened in the past. And we're not talking about something that will happen. We're talking about things that has already happened. So one reason why we're sure that almost certain that this will happen is because it has already happened. The problem with humans are that they get so used to the conditions that they are in that they don't notice that they're already living like gods compared to what people considered living like gods in just 150 years ago. So let me for example tell you the idea that I press a button and I lit my house, and or the streets will be lit at night without without having without much trouble. The idea of I turn something and there will be warm water coming down upon me like rain for me to wash myself. The idea that we don't have all of this people doing manual labor to wash our clothes, and you press a button and there's physical labor automatically happening in your washing machine and washing your clothes. The idea of I pick this magical device in my hand and I press a few buttons, and after that, some food will show up in front of my door. That is magic. I'm not talking about people 5,000 years ago. I'm not talking about people 1,000 years ago. I'm not talking about people 500 years ago. I'm talking about people only 150 years ago. Telling them the idea that humans at some point there will be this object that they will pick up and they will press a few buttons and they will food show up at where they are at their door. Okay, that is magic. That is these people who have these powers. This is godlike abilities. And to you, this seems like, okay, I mean, that's just ordering a delivery. What the hell? What are you talking about, godlike? This is when what you consider godlike today, when technology delivers that to us, we will get used to it so much. Right now, if you could see what we will have 50 years from now, your jaw will drop. And in the same way that people 150 years ago watching our lives could not even understand why we are upset about anything, we seem to be living like kings and queens, and we're still somehow managing to be upset. We are also, if we today could see people 50 years from now, our jaws would drop, our minds would blow up. We think, what the hell? These people, this is godlike powers that people have 50 years from now. But the thing is that people 50 years from now, they're going to get used to it so much, so fast, that they would find it laughable for you to even describe it as godlike. Just like right now, for you to be able to go take a shower, you turn on the water and you get warm water on just at your command, available to wash yourself. You laugh at considering that godlike powers, the idea of changing the temperature of your room with the pressing of a few buttons, the fact that you laugh somebody being impressed by that, just shows how fast we get used to things that were unimaginable just 150 years ago. So when it comes to, basically what I'm suggesting is that when it comes to religion has promised things for thousands of years and has never happened. When it comes to tech optimism, we're not even talking about things that could happen. We have already seen this happen over and over and over and over again. And all we're suggesting is that this is going to continue. And maybe the only thing that is we're suggesting that is going to change is the rate of change. So it's just going to continue, just in the same way that humans, when it comes to getting around, for 10,000 years, they were just mostly riding on other animals to be able to get around. So 10,000 years, we were relied on things like horses. And all of a sudden, within the past 100 years, uh, we now rely on cars. So 10,000 years of not changing, within 100 years, all of a sudden, everything changes so fast. So you can see that it's not just changing, it's accelerating. And also the acceleration is accelerating. So it's exponential. So we're suggesting that that's good. It's not just the change that's going to continue, it's also the acceleration is also going to continue. So the changes that we saw happen, the amount of change that we saw in the past 150 years, it's not going to take another 150 years for us to see the similar amount of changes. It's going to take 50 years for us to see similar amount of changes, and then it's going to take 20 years, and then it's going to take 10 years, and then it's going to take 5 years. And again, what we've already observed is not just only change, but what we're already observing is also acceleration. So this is not based on faith. This is not based on just gut feelings. This is based on induction reasoning on what we already observe. So that's the main difference that we have to keep in mind, right? So let's go back to the similarities. I mean, the comparison is kind of poetic, because a lot of our culture and a lot of our poetry and a lot of our metaphors are rooted into religious thinking, because our culture was founded upon our religious thoughts for thousands of years. So it only makes sense, if you want to talk about these things, continue talk about technology and science and the progress of it from in a poetic, using a poetic license, you will obviously be using religious language doing so. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know if you're with me. All right. Yeah, guys, I need you to like the stream, because I need more people to really understand what we're talking about here, right? Yeah. Ghost Talk is saying it's so amazing. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying this. Thank you. All right. So shared promises. What religion and tech both offer. And these are some of the, I gave you the general promises, but let's get specific. Among all the promises, because we're not just talking about a vague things are going to get better. The similarities get very specific when it comes to some of these promises. One of the most important promises that makes us all sound very religion like is the promise of immortality, because religion promises life after death, like heaven, paradise, reincarnation, or if you want to get more Sufi like or mystic like return to the God version of you, or becoming one with God. That's another version, which is actually when it comes to tech, I could show you how that also fits into a tech optimist framing. So we have promise of life after death, and when it comes to tech optimism, the promise of defeating death biologically for when it comes to reaching longevity, escape velocity, or I don't know, maybe cryonics or mind uploading. There are different technologies that are constantly being discussed, and they're becoming more and more closer, getting closer and closer to reality when it comes to eternal life and immortality. So, for example, a Christian might hope to meet God after death, and a transhumanist, which is basically another area of tech optimism, a transhumanist wants to upload their mind and live forever in a digital world, like okay, in a digital world. So, yeah, and that's one. Immortality is one, and then becoming like God is this is a part of tech optimism that is closer, maybe not to traditional Abrahamic religions, but mostly to mystical religions. So when it comes to Christianity, Judaism, Islam, or Hinduism, they don't suggest that when you die you become like God. The creator and the createe are very very much separate from each other. Before, during life, and even after life, that's not going to change, right? But becoming like God, if you actually talk to if you pay attention to mystical religions, for example, Sufism, or Irfan, Sufism in Sunni Islam, or Irfan in Shia Islam, or some parts of Hindu philosophy, or Gnosticism, or Buddhism. Okay, so these are religions or ideas that either suggest that we have some divinity within us, or that we are divine ourselves as individuals. We are divine, or we are, or even if we're not, if divinity does not exist in that ideology, there is a eternal source of power that is basically everything, that we're returning back to that. So we are either a part of God that has been separated from this godlike entity, and we're just trying to find our way back to it, or we are basically gods that have forgotten that we are gods, and then we are in the process of realizing that we are God, right? And basically, life is about, the whole point of life is about returning to your God self, which is an interesting idea that we could even explore even more in future streams, and how much. Well, I'm gonna leave that for future streams, right? So keep that in mind when it comes to mystic ideas or religions. And now look at tech optimism, and what would that, the consequences of thinking that AI maximalism and tech optimism, what is that if you are in that camp, if you're a tech optimist or an AI maximalist, you're, many of you in that camp would say that you're on a path to become like God through intelligence amplification, and also much easier access to energy, body upgrades, merging with machines, maybe going to a virtual world, having a lot more command and control over nature. So through tech we will become like gods. And if you ignore the direction of time, so for example, from a Sufi perspective, we were gods. We have been separated from being a god, and now we are finding our way back to it, like basically like drops of water that has been. So imagine like we have a sea, and the sun makes the water evaporate from the sea, and then you become cloud, and then you become drops of rain, and then you're basically, life is that drop of rain going through mountains, and you know turning into rivers, and then eventually that you're that drop basically finding its way back to that sea, which is God, right? So the direction of time is that you are God, and you're now a drop of water trying to find your way back to godhood, right? But God first and human second. However, when it comes to religious way of thinking, time is irrelevant. Time is a human centric perspective. I mean, not from a maybe many religious thinking, but if you want it from a mystic perspective, God is above time. God, time and time and space is not something that you could confine God in, like cannot be defined within those framework. And because time is irrelevant, the direction of time is also irrelevant, which is interesting because from a scientific perspective, we also understand that the direction of time is it's a human centric perspective of looking at the world, and actually time is just all times just exist. The direction of time is just something that is a human experience. It's not necessarily the thing that is within the universe, right? So I'm not going to get too philosophical, but if you ignore the direction of time, us humans going into becoming God is just the opposite of that. And maybe it is the same thing, because if we become gods at some point, or godlike, that godlike potential has always been within us. And it might you might want to be just you might want to describe it that us going towards something. But if we ignore the direction of time, or if we consider that God that we eventually will become something that was always our potential, that we were going to reach, and it was inevitable, then we are technically returning back to our godhood. So basically, it's the idea that becoming God through all of this technology is basically going to our ideal self that we always had within us. And this ideal version of ourselves that always had within us is basically this mystic tradition of our understanding of we are returning to godhood, because this godhood was always with us, right? So yeah, so for example, in Sufi analogy, you are the ocean. uh you are an ocean, you were always an ocean, and you as a drop, that you're realizing your oceanness by returning back to the ocean. And from a tech perspective, you are a future god. It's not that you will become a god, you are already a future god that has been compressed into a human shell waiting for an upgrade. And if you play your card, just basically from a religious perspective, heaven and hell is not heaven is not this place that you go and you get rewarded, and hell is not necessarily this place that you go get punished and tortured. From a mystic perspective, these are just metaphors from being able to for this drop to return to its original form of godhood, and hell is basically being far away from it. And from a tech analogy, you as an individual playing your cards right and understand doing the things that you need to do to be able to survive this period, to see that world. So doing the things that are supposed to be the right things, basically here in this analogy, you making mistakes and not reaching that world would be the sins that will keep you in hell. And by from a Sufi analogy or from a mystic analogy, hell is basically you failing at reaching that godhood by not making the right decisions. And again, but just in the same way that religion comes and gives you a list of do's and don'ts for you to be able to reach godhood, then based on where we find ourselves today, we could come up with a list of things that we are the best, are basically the 10 commandments of do's and don'ts on how to make sure that we are reach that godhood, both from human society as a whole perspective and also from an individual perspective, right? Another similarity, which is beyond those general similarities, things that stand out as okay, this is actually very similar between tech optimism and religion, is that you have text now from non-human sources, right? So I mean, at least the claim of it, right? So for example, religion, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, I mean, Hinduism has these from sages, so I don't know if they're considered to be non-humans, but let's put Hinduism aside for now, just focus on Abrahamic religions. So you have scripture, and this scripture supposedly are messages from the divine. And what is the divine? What is God? It's basically non-human intelligence, non-human, superior non-human intelligence, right? So we are basically now getting that for the very first time. For 10,000 years throughout human history, if you saw text anywhere, it was human made text. So it was either human text that humans claim that humans made it, or human text that humans claim that God made that text, even though humans made that text. So we had the claim that there are some texts among us that came from a non-human intelligence, but we all know that all of it came from human intelligence. But since quite recently, we finally actually got, for the very first time, with ChatGPT, uh, AI model like GPT, we also for the first time managed to eventually generate long form complex text from a non-human mind. Basically, the text that we saw from ChatGPT, a lot of people maybe missed that moment that, oh, this is actually the first text, unlike what we were told, which is the Quran or the Bible or the Torah. We were told that this is non-human intelligence based text. This is actually very first time. This is the very first time that we have non-human intelligence based text from these GPT models. So the fact that we have, so that's a very interesting similarity, but it actually gets even more interesting because we are now using it for advice. So in both cases, people are reading this material for advice, for wisdom, and for moral guidance, and treating them with awe. This is a very interesting similarity, and it's going to get even more because right now a lot of the advice from AI models are not reliable. Some there's hallucinations still. There's sometimes they get something wrong. So there's still, right now, even with the reasoning models, it still makes sense to to get advice from humans to just to make sure. But given how fast this has improved, it's inevitable that we are very soon going to get to the point where it makes no sense to actually get advice from a human, because of how good the reasoning models are. Other than, actually, it still does make sense, other than for emotional reasons, because we humans like to be in touch with other humans and talk to other humans. Okay, but when it comes to actually getting good advice, we are so close to getting to the point where the reasoning models will provide the best advice, best guidance, best wisdom, best moral guidance, best everything on what we're supposed to be doing. So, and they're flexible because the religious text that was revealed to humans, they were basically like the Quran couldn't keep giving you, you couldn't go back and forth with it, right? The Quran is like, here's the book, it's complete, you don't need anything else. You can be like, okay, but can you give me advice on this? Like, no, it's done. The script is over. We're not going to change it. That's there's no interaction here. Okay, but this is superior because this is basically every human becoming a prophet, because when it came to religion, we had prophets that could basically interact with the God. So God would talk, and then the prophet would talk, and God would respond to the prophet. So we have a conversation going on there, right? And the rest of us who got the religious text, and that was about it. There was no two-way communication. Or But the prophets got the two-way communication. When it comes to the AI and the language models constantly improving and becoming even better at reasoning at some point, the relationship we have with this God and with this scripture and with this revelation, it would be like every single one of us was the prophet, rather than these other people who the prophet told, like, hey, trust me, bro, I talked to God and he told me this. Well, I don't need to trust you, bro. I want to talk to God myself. I want to be the prophet. With AI models, you get to be the prophet. You get to be the relationship that the prophet has with the God, because you're talking and the God is talking back, and is and it's even better than the prophet, because, for example, Muhammad didn't know when the next revelation is going to come. Like, it wasn't in his control. So Muhammad, for example, sometimes went for years without God revealing any messages to him, and he was very depressed. Maybe God like abandoned me. What the hell happened? What did I do? Did I do something wrong? So he had to wait to see when the revelation comes. For us, our relationship when it comes to this to this non-human super intelligence is that it's available on command anytime, any moment that we want, right? So it's even better than the relationship that the prophets had with their gods. So that's another similarity. And then the another similarity is the messianic hope, the or we could compare that to the singularity. So the religious version of this is that it waits for a Messiah, a Mahdi, or what is that? What is this called? Kali Yuga, right? Is that it? Oh, yes, Kali Yuga. Yes, Kali Yuga, for example, in Hinduism, the Mahdi in Islam, or the Messiah, either coming for the first time in Judaism or coming back in Christianity. So this is all messianic, right? So religions are waiting for something to happen. They're waiting for some either a divine event or a Messiah or a Mahdi to come back to transform the world. And the similarity when it comes to the tech optimists is that the tech optimists are waiting for what? For this event called the singularity. So singularity is basically Kali Yuga, right? The singularity is Kali Yuga, or the rapture, or the return of the Mahdi. So tech optimists are waiting the singularity. What is singularity? It's basically a future moment when AI is able to continuously what is the word, recursively, yeah, I think that's the word, self improves itself and transforms reality. So once we get to the point where AI is improving the AI without human intervention, because right now AI is already improving AI. In fact, AI is only made by AI right now, but humans need to be in the loop. Human needs to be there to press the buttons and do the thing and provide the energy. Once we get to the point where AI can do all the process of improving AI without humans having to do anything, that's the moment that we have hit singularity, and the self improvement will get onto such a rapid pace that the change is going to be so fast that is going to seem like instant, and reality as we know it is going to change in a way that even the most optimistic of us is going to be shocked about how fast things are changing, and so how so many unpredictable things are happening in a way that even people who spend most of their time trying to figure out what's going to happen could not even see coming, right? And again, I have seen so many predictions on what this is going to happen. I've seen as early as 2045 by people like Ray Kurzweil. And again, it's that seems too optimistic for me. However, to be fair to the guy, most of his predictions have come true, but it's crazy to think he might be right here. But I've seen predictions as early as 2045, two predictions suggesting that it's going to happen within the next 100 years or so. um it's all over the place, so I don't know when it's going to happen. But when it comes to people who are in this field and take this seriously, there are not that many that suggest that this is not going to happen, right? So it's something that is going to happen. The question is when. It could be as early as 2045, or it could be, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to take more than 100 years, right? But this whole singularity and the idea of what's going to happen when it happens is basically very similar to the idea of, I don't know, like Christ's return and a moment that everything changes, right? It's an end of days scenario Um, abandoned James in the chat is saying 2045 will be the next GTA release. Yes, Singularity. Can't believe we got Singularity before GTA 6. That's a good one. All right, another similarity. That's good. I like it. I like that. Yeah, Amir is also saying within this century, probably. Yeah, I think it's going to be within this century. Um, but we can never be sure. So another similarity is going to be moral law, good deeds versus sins, right? So religions have these commandments to obey, and so for you to reach salvation and disobey and face punishment. When it comes to tech optimism, there are there are many different people that are suggesting different things on what you're supposed to be doing, given that all of these changes are coming. And I will tell you what I think are the best, what my suggested commandments are, my suggested focus is going to be. I am going to mention that at the end of the show. But again, different people have different lists, but this is basically very similar to commandments. I'll go over again. I cannot give you a list of things that the tech optimism suggests, because different people have different ideas of what's the right thing to do from an individual from an individual perspective. So I don't have a list of to suggest what the tech optimist idea it is, other than what's that guy's name? I forgot, the guy that is like trying to become the healthiest person alive. Is the one commandment of don't die, right? That guy has tried to, you guys know who I'm talking about? That guy has tried to reduce everything to just don't die. Oh yeah, I think I found him. Brian Johnson. Yeah. So he has tried to keep everything very simple. He said like do everything not to die when it comes to your health, to be able to make sure that you see this world. So he's just basically simple, not 10 commandments, just one commandment. Mine is a little bit longer, and I will get to that. Right. So another similarity is that is the belief in a higher power. So for religion is faith in a higher power, but when it comes to tech optimists, I don't see it as faith. That's why I'm calling it a belief in higher power. So in religion, you trust God's will. When it comes to AI maximalism, people begin to trust. Well, I mean, it seems that we're moving into a direction where more people are going to just trust AI more than their own judgment. We're already there almost with O3. Right now, I'm there. I consider myself a smart guy. I consider myself intelligent, and with O3, which is not at all even remotely close to advanced compared to what we're about to get very soon, I've gotten to the point where if I think something and the O3 model says something else, I go with the O3 model more often. I found myself accepting the O3 model's conclusion more than my conclusion more often, right? So even somebody like me who maybe justifiably or unjustifiably considers himself to be a wise, intelligent, smart person, I consider myself right now inferior to the O3 model, which is um, so which is nothing compared to what we're about to get. So imagine if we get to the O4 model or whatever they want to call it. I don't know. The naming convention is weird, but whatever they want to call it, then why would I even trust myself at all, given that I don't already rely on my conclusions compared to the O3 model? So this idea of just I'm trusting a higher power and leaning on it, this is very much like basically religious people trusting in God. So you would just let AI. I mean, we already have people trusting AI over their instincts, over their conclusions, letting AI recommend medical actions to them, asking them for life advice, asking them for relationship advice, financial advice. It's already happening, and this is going to become so widespread very soon. And okay, so let me see how much time we have, because I need to go to the Persian channel and basically talk about the same thing very soon. So let's talk about. Let me actually go really quickly through some notes I have because I want to make sure that I go through the do's and don'ts. Okay. Okay. So another aspect of this is the apocalyptic thinking. Okay, the old versus new. So classical apocalypticism. I always have a hard time saying this. Ancient religion apocalypses says like the Book of Revelation or the Book of Enoch follow the pattern. For example, alienation. The world is unjust and ruled by evil powers. Imminent intervention. God is about to intervene and fix it. And then we have transformation. The faithful will receive immortal, uh, glorified bodies in utopia. These texts were not just about the world being destroyed, because that's a lot of people think like, oh, apocalyptic means that, oh, the world is about to be destroyed. But if you actually look at this text, this is actually more about revealing a hidden truth and restoring justice. But in Hollywood and modern culture, we treat apocalyptic texts as this promise of absolute destruction. So if you actually look at it and what they actually meant to be, it's very similar also when it, to what AI is talking, what AI maximalists sometimes talk about, which some people like Robert Gerasi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, is Geraci, he calls it apocalyptic AI, which is a secular version of religious apocalypse. Again, when I say apocalypse, don't think about the world being destroyed. Think about it from the perspective of revealing hidden truth and restoring justice. Or, well, religion is obsessed with justice, but let's say, for example, from us tech optimist perspective, say well-being. Not maybe justice is not something. Justice is something that is very vaguely defined. I tend to usually virtue ethicists focus on justice, but utilitarians, they focus on well-being. And I, as a utilitarian, I also focus on well-being, right? So again, so what were those three? We had alienation, we have imminent intervention, and we had transformation. And we have those also when it comes to apocalyptic AI, which is alienation, is humans are trapped by biology, by aging, by stupidity. So what is that's the equivalent of the alienation. The equivalent of divine intervention is a self-improving AGI or ASI. Eventually will break those limits, will break those barriers, and then that will lead to the third element, which is transformation, which is humanity evolves into something post-human, digital minds, cyborgs merged with machines, and basically we will be able to live beyond those limitations. Okay, so the AI is like a messiah, the Messiah. It's both the savior and the destroyer, basically here to destroy the old and bring the new and save us from our own ignorance and our own limitations, right? And then we had the singularity, which is basically that's very similar to the new second coming. The singularity is a moment AI improves itself faster than humans can understand, causing exponential change, like a divine arrival. It promises to basically it leads to the people promising or suggesting that it will erase ignorance, cure death and suffering, and remake civilization, right? And then we have transhumanism, which is our new glorified body. Transhumanism aims to upgrade the body and mind, uploads consciousness, cures disease, eliminates suffering, become cyborgs. In Christianity, for example, we have Paul talking about resurrecting the um our bodies, in and then transhumanism offers also a tech version of it. So we either have our bodies being resurrected physically in religion, or we become independent from our bodies and we become just like spirits. We have two different philosophies in religion. Early forms of Abrahamic religion believe that actually afterlife would be with our physical bodies, but the more if it evolved, it eventually turned into, no, there is no physical body, we're just going to become freed from our bodies, and our spirits will live independently from our bodies. And we have both versions of that in AI as well. We will either become either it's transhumanism, or that will improve our bodies and make these physical bodies be able to live without the limitations of what our evolutionary biology gave us. Or at some point, maybe we would just completely upload ourselves into virtual realities, and we wouldn't have these physical bodies that we have at all today. So both of those ideas that religion has covered can be seen captured here when it comes to the future of technology, right? And also, there's this person, her name is Beth Sinclair. I think I'm mentioning her name right, pronouncing it right. She calls this positive apocalyptic AI, which is not hellfire, but salvation through code, right? And then religious language. So this is why it's so tempting to use religious language when it comes to this whole framing of what's happening to us from a technological perspective. You see, and that's why you can see a lot of religious titles. For example, the rapture of the nerds, the age of spiritual machines, or like will robots inherit the earth? And it's not just us. A lot of people who don't believe in religion constantly keep using this religious language, right? Even among atheists, the psychological function of religion, hope, control, transcendence, it survives. I mean, because this is not a religious mind, this is a human mind to think about these things and want these things, right? um Basically, it's part of our wiring, it's part of our DNA. They turn these are narrative. The reason why religion was created by humans was because the human brain was hardwired to think like this, and then religion was created as a side product. But because this is how we are, with or without religion, we are going to go back to our factory settings, even if you remove religion from the equation. um okay, so the difference, we mentioned a lot of the similarities. Let's remind ourselves about the differences. Religion is based on myth, faith, and revelation, promises that are not just unproven but historically have failed, like we have seen them fail. But tech optimism is based on science, data, real historical progress. For example, if someone from 1825 saw your life today, they would think that you're a god. I mean, a lot of people think, like, when you say God, we're talking about the triomni God, the Plato's version of the triomni God, which is a God that is all powerful, all loving, and all knowing. But historically, that was not what gods were about. This is a more new version of God that is like maybe only 2,000 years old compared to the 10,000 years of civilization that we have had throughout history. Gods were mostly this superheroes, basically these people that had these entities that had more powers and had more control over nature than your average human, right? So based on the more traditional definition of a god, we are already living like gods, basically the gods that most humans would consider gods, right? Throughout history, we're talking. I mean, I'm think about it. I am talking right now, and there are people from different places around the world listening to me. This is this is godlike powers. There are many diseases that seemed uncurable, and now they are cured. That basically is very similar to miracles of gods when it comes to curing diseases. Flying in metal birds, just a simple riding, going on a trip, uh, getting a flight from one city to another, just explaining to other people just a few hundred years ago that, yeah, it's going to be normal for humans at some point to fly in this giant metal birds in the sky, right? That sounds insane. That sounds insane, right? And also, like, AI is just basically same as oracles, asking AI oracles for answers. Again, you can see that I'm saying all of this to show that differences is that one of them has delivered, the other one has not. The other one has failed. Nothing fails like prayer, nothing fails like revelation, nothing fails like faith, but nothing delivers like technology. So as much as, so the language is the same, but the results could not be any more different. The framing of it, a lot of people are like, oh, this is just another religion. I mean, yeah, if you want to be poetic about it, the language sounds religious, but if you actually look at the results, the difference is night and day. I mean, we already live. This is not just prophecy. This is prophecy fulfilled. We are living in it. All of you are already living in a prophecy fulfilled. So to suggest that, oh, because the language is similar, then they're the same, is insane, given the main difference, which is the delivery. I don't want to completely be, so when it comes to the delivery of the promises, yes, we're anti-religion, but actually let me defend something about religion here as well. Religion is not completely useless, even though they suck at delivering on the promises, and even though they're based on descriptions of reality that completely is different from what reality actually is like. They're not completely worthless. They are a mirror. They are a reflection of the human mind, the human psyche. They're basically dream maps. So religions, legends, like the stories that we tell ourselves, all these stories that we tell ourselves, have been telling each other for 10,000 years, they might not be a reflection of reality, but they are a reflection of the human mind. And because they're a reflection of the human mind, so when you read Genesis, when you read the Torah, when you read the New Testament, when you read the Quran, when you read if they claim something about nature, it doesn't make sense to believe that. But that claim about nature, that claim about reality, given the source of that was the human mind, they do say something to you about the human mind. And you could learn about a lot about the human mind and human societies by examining religion through that lens. And that's why I'm also on the Atheist Republic channel. I'm obsessed with looking at religion, the true history of religion and scripture, and figuring out what the real story here is. Not the story that the scripture says, but the story about the scripture. So I'm not interested in the story that the scripture, necessarily what the scripture is saying as a story. I'm interested in the story behind the story. I'm interested in the story that led to that story being said, because it tells you a lot about human civilization, right? So, I mean, the obvious ones that it's a lot more nuanced and detailed, but the obvious ones is that we already know that a child could tell by studying religion is that we want to conquer death, we want to transcend pain, we want to feel important, we want a sense of awe, we want to become something greater, we want a sense of belonging, we want a sense of being accepted, we want a sense of being noticed. There's a lot, okay? But it goes into a lot more detail. However, these are our dreams, these are our fears, these are our wants that religion could tell us. Religion cannot deliver, but technology can deliver. And the fact that we are putting it in a religious framework when it comes to expressing it is because if religion failed at delivering, but religion did a good job at expressing our hopes and dreams and our fears, right? So now that it's being delivered, the framework of religious expression makes sense, because this is 10,000 years worth of human psychology when it comes to expressing our dreams and our fears. So that's why religious language sticks. We are just so used to that branding. both because we have been using it for 10,000 years, but also because it's a reflection of the wiring of our brain. It is within our DNA. But so we're using their labels for the real upgrades that is now actually happening. Right. So let me actually quickly go over now the do's and don'ts based on everything we discussed. Right, guys. Also, please like the stream. I appreciate you guys liking the stream so that more people end up seeing this. And let me know in the chat if if you're finding this interesting, because I'm fascinated by everything I'm saying here myself. When I'm researching this and studying it, I'm going to be talking about a lot more of this stuff. So make sure you're subscribed if you're new here, because there's a lot more of this kind of conversation coming. But I spend a lot of time thinking about these things and looking at what experts are saying, and then I also do get a lot of advice from AI's reasoning model based on this. So I go back and forth between my own thoughts, the experts in this field, and also AI itself. So there's three minds here, basically, three sources of thinking that I use to prepare these shows for you. And there's going to be a lot more of this coming. So make sure you subscribe, and also make sure you hit the bell notification. Right. So now let's go to the new commandments, the new commandments. Okay. So what are the good deeds? And these are now my opinions, and I'll tell you why. So you remember how that dude, what was his name again? I keep forgetting his name. The Brian Johnson, yeah. He has one commandment and he tries to reduce it to don't die, right? I think of it as three main areas that we need to focus on, and it's within this order, right? Health, wealth, and kindness. Again, I try to simplify it. It's not as simple as his, which is one commandment. Mine is health, wealth, and kindness, and in that order. And it's interesting because this order made sense even before, even without tech optimism, it made sense. So for example, let's say you're somebody that says that, you know what, I don't know, you guys seem to be too optimistic about this. The good thing about the suggestions I make on this channel is that they are, in my opinion, the best advice, regardless of this happening or not. So the problem with the commandments from religion is that if you do them and the promises of religions are false, it actually costs you this life for the sake of something that did not happen. But the good thing about tech optimism is that the advice that the things that you need to do will make your life better regardless of whether all of this happens or not. And the order also makes sense regardless of this happening or not. So let's look at health, wealth, and kindness, and think about singularity never happening and tech optimism all being a hype. And let me tell you why this order makes sense. What we know from studies is that the best way of reaching maximum happiness, right, is through kindness and dedicating your life and sacrificing your life to bring happiness to other people, to people around you, and the connections that you have with the people around you, right? So why did I put that last? If that is the ultimate source of happiness, then why did I put kindness last and I put health and wealth first? So the ultimate goal is for you to be in a position where you have the power and control over your life to be able to do a lot of volume of work to improve other people's lives, and noticing that you are improving other people's lives and you have very genuine, rich connections with them. That is the ultimate fulfillment. That's the ultimate source of feeling important, feeling happy, by bringing a smile upon other people's faces and reducing other people's misery, and you having a bond, a strong bond with this. Is humans are very, very social animals, and this is why the most important source of pleasure and happiness is the bond that they have with the people around them, right? This is what the best way, this is what defines them, and this is what, if they get this, nothing else will make them this happy, right? And also, this is not this something to say to just sound like, oh, poetic, oh, that's beautiful, oh, that's beautiful. This is actually based on studies. The longest study, the most advanced longest study done on human psychology and what brings happiness, which was done by Harvard, shows absolutely by a huge margin that this is what brings happiness. So then why did I put health first, wealth second, and kindness last, right? Because for you to be able to get to a position where you can focus on other people and can focus on your connection and bond to your wife, to your husband, to your children, to your community, to bringing other people a better life, you first have to get to a position where your basic needs are met, and that you have some control, you have economic agency, and that you could control your own life, and you have control over your environment, and you could only do that through wealth. So basically, the idea of, if a plane is going down and a child is next to you, don't put the mask on the child first. You have to put the mask on yourself first, so that you're in a position that you could put the mask on the child. The reason why wealth comes before kindness is because you have to get to a position where helping other people will not burn you out, will not paralyze you, and will not make you will be able to continue helping other people, because you're not in a position that if you help a few people, eventually you will burn out and then you will stop being able to help people. You have to get to a position where you are in a position of control, that you could maintain that and you could continue that. So that's why wealth comes before kindness. And why does health come before wealth? Because wealth becomes irrelevant if you don't have your health, right? And this is easy to see. Just, you could go talk to billionaires who are suffering, who are stuck in a wheelchair, or who have cancer, that or have an incurable disease, or not mobile, cannot go walking, cannot go hiking, or cannot basically need other people to come watch them. Go talk to a billionaire who has a lot of wealth but not a lot of health, or like or just a billionaire who is in their 80s and or in their 90s. Ask them if they are willing to give all their wealth to get their health back. Most of the time they will say yes. So that obviously shows that health is a priority over wealth. So basically, my three commandments are health first, wealth second, kindness third. This is the things that you need to be focusing on. And again, I'm not going to go into details of because getting these things, apparently I'm discovering, are just doing a lot of hard work on a few things that will get you these things. It's not that complicated, apparently. And I'm discovering these things recently, and I'm going to be sharing some of them with you guys in the future streams as well. But this is even without completely ignoring tech optimism. But in my opinion, that's the best advice on how to live. But now, if you add tech optimism, all of that disorder becomes even more reasonable, right? So let's think about it. If we are actually reaching singularity, or not even singularity, if we're reaching a post-labor, post-scarcity world, and you might be able to reach that if you live long enough, obviously health becomes the number one priority. And that's why that Brian Johnson guy was focusing on don't die, right? The most valuable resource in the age of exponential tech is time to live. So health becomes your highest priority. Basically, you have to take care of your body, which is the only thing that is keeping you alive for now, if you want to see that world. And then making sure that you're alive becomes your highest priority. So health becomes your number one priority. Wealth becomes the second priority, because right now, if we're entering into a post-labor world, labor is going to become less and less important, and capital and property is going to be the number one reason why some people have more economic agency over others. And that's why in the time that you have left, you have to use your labor to make the most amount of money without spending much of it, and moving that money, that wealth that you make from labor to capital, to store your wealth in the form of property, to be able to make sure that in the post-labor world you have things in your name that will give you economic agency above the people who are relying on transfers from the government to be able to remain economically relevant. So you will lose that control. So you have to, first you need to be alive, so that's health. Second is that you have to try to remain in control, and you only get that through economic agency. So you have a very short amount of time to make the most amount of money, to store that money in the form of property. So in a post-labor world, you have more agency and more control over your life, right? So that's why wealth becomes even more important in the time that we have to get there. And then the kindness part becomes even more important, given that as AI becomes more advanced and takes more things from us, the things that will set us apart from others is our human empathy, our emotion, our care. I mean, eventually AI will come and dominate that domain as well. But for a very long time, AI will be able to capture almost every domain except this one thing that will separate us from the AI. And because we're not doing anything else other than being human, the things that separate us from the AI is going to become the most important part of us, which is the human empathy and emotion and care and qualia, to be actually everything qualia related, that is the human qualia, rather than, I mean, I'm sure AI is going to have its own form of qualia, but our qualia is going to be different from them for a long time. And that's important. That's why it's important. The human to human bond is going to be more focused on when we are not working, because we have nothing else to do other than focus on each other and our relationship with each other. So that's why in that world, kindness becomes even more important. In the post-work world, emotional intelligence becomes more important than other form of intelligence. Is our differentiator. So basically, the main conclusion is, from all of what I'm saying, is my commandments, the commandments that I think should be the simple version of that. And then maybe in future streams, if you guys want, I will go to details on what's the best practices in all of these three areas as I'm discovering them with you guys with AI, with the help of AI. Is stay healthy, easy, stay healthy, make the most money, and try to get better at being kind to others and making connection with them. And here's the thing, I add a fourth one. In all these three areas, use AI to get better at all of them. Use AI to get better at your health, use AI to get better at your wealth, and use AI to get the best ideas and the best practices on how to create meaningful bonds with other humans. You make sure, if you're not using it, so maybe there's 4 commandments: stay healthy, get wealthy, be kind, use AI. Use AI more often. So I think these are my 4 commandments. Okay. All right. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think is that. I mean, and here's a point. Even if all of this is BS and none of what I'm saying is going to happen, you're not going to lose anything. This is the AI maximalist version of Pascal's wager. The only difference is that this Pascal's wager makes sense. What is there for you to lose? Let's say, for example, 50 years from now, you realize that, okay, all of this thing is either not going to happen, or it's going to happen much longer than it's going to take much longer than we anticipated, right? All right. What happened? Because of what did you do? You ended up being more healthy. You ended up making more money. You ended up making better connections to other people and a more rich life, more kind life, more empathy, more love. I mean, you're not. I don't think you're going to regret following this advice. I think, like, even if any of this doesn't happen, you're going to notice that this was good advice regardless, right? Oh, Jack is saying health is hard because I'm addicted to energy drinks. Jack, go ask the O3 explain this your situation, whatever addiction you have, whatever problems you're having. Go open a Google Doc, explain in great detail your situation, write it in great detail on a Google Doc, your situation, then copy and paste it to ChatGPT, turn the reasoning model on, and then start a long conversation with the reasoning model, not the O4 model, because not the 4O model, sorry. Use the O3 model and get actionable advice on how to do what to do to overcome that addiction, right? But again, nothing is more important right now, guys, than your health. Nothing, absolutely nothing, right? And the best way to take care of your health is very easy. It's very easy. It comes down to just a few advice: drinking a lot of water, getting a lot of sleep, just moving your body, right? Like a lot of people are, oh, exercise. Just dance, just walk, go out, walk, just go out, walk your dogs, go walk with your child. Like you don't, I mean, it's good to have a gym membership, but don't come up with excuses like, oh, I don't have a gym membership, I can't afford this. Just go walk. As long as you're moving your body, it's very, I mean, if you're doing 4 things, you're ahead of most people. Okay, 5 things. Okay, drink a lot of water, get a lot of sleep, move your body often, right? Don't smoke. Don't smoke or drink. Don't eat garbage food. If you do these 5 things, you are better than the vast majority of people out there. And again, it seems like this is we're talking about tech and the future of AI. And what is this advice? You're giving me health advice. This is so related, and you have no idea. A lot of people have no idea what they could potentially be missing out on if you just don't do these 5 things. Oh yeah, okay. Jewish Samantha is saying I hula hoop while watching these live streams. Fantastic. That's fantastic. Good on you. I'm proud of you. That's amazing. And Jack saying thanks for the advice and encouragement. Yes. Darko is saying do things that make you happy. Well, not always. I mean, don't smoke if that makes you happy. That's not a good idea. Do things that make you happy in the long term. Okay, Jack's saying I do 4 out of 5. I eat and drink junk food. Okay, yeah. If you could do that, remove that, then you would be all good. All right. I'm gonna head out. Oh, wait, Amir start 2 comments for me to read. Dr. Hypnosis is saying the promise of heaven is a scam. We have the opportunity to build heaven on earth. We don't gotta wait for magic Sky Daddy to come back down and do it for us. Perfectly said. I like it, Dr. Hypnosis. And Tema is saying we'd all be time lords, same memory, different personalities with time because of new experiences. Wait, we already are minus immortality. Yeah, I mean, actually, Tema, a lot of the things that we talk about the future, these future systems that control, that is basically is determining our destiny without our individual control over it because of AI. We are already living that in the systems and structures that we have in our society today. A lot of people don't realize. A lot of people think that we have more control over our economy and policy than we actually do. They don't understand that our society seems to have a mind of its own that emerges from the simple minds that we have. It's a higher, it's or you beyond. Even if you ignore AI, society itself has an emergent mind-like property that is beyond the wisdom of individuals, and we already have that. We have already had that for thousands of years, this thing called civilization. So maybe I could actually one day compare this emergent property that comes from human societies, the wisdom of the crowd, which is the mind of society, is an AI like entity that we have already lived with for thousands of years. So this AI thing is not something, this wiser entity, it's emergent wisdom that comes from AI. This is not anything new. We have already, I mean, we know that this exists even ever since the Adam Smith came and introduced the invisible hand again. But I'm not going to get into that for now. But that was an interesting thing to think about. All right, so wait, what is this? I don't know what Amir is addicted to. Don't judge me. Okay. All right, guys. All right, guys. I'm gonna go get ready for the Persian show. I hope you enjoyed this. Please recommend these videos so that this channel grows, because I think we're going to make a lot of interesting. We're going to have a lot of interesting discussions on this channel, and it would be nice to have more people here joining us when we're having these discussions. So please, other than subscribing and hitting the bell notification and leaving a comment after the show is over, leave a comment. Let me know. I want to hear your comments. Like, leave a comment about your views on this topic in the comment section after the show. I'm gonna be reading them. And also like the stream, and please go ahead and advertise and recommend this channel to to everybody that you can. Okay. All right, guys. I'm gonna go get ready. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking the stream, and I'll see you again on the next show. Bye. Mwah. Thank you, Amir, for highlighting, for starting the comments. See you guys soon.